Good morning, everyone. We are live. To all of the students out there, welcome. It is fantastic to have you online with us. I know a lot of you are back in Stellenbosch town, and it's really exciting to have you back. My name's Peter. I'm going to be the host today. My aim is not to talk much, except for to intro the different speakers. But I would like to say a big welcome to all of you. It is literally fantastic to have you. The aim of this webinar is really to assist you with valuable information. So you'll get the opportunity to see the different bursary officers and the administrators, and give you that kind of valuable information for you and what you need to know. So let me read this so I give it to you properly. We'll give you guidance so that you'll feel secure about your financial aid in order to enable you to be able to solely focus on your academics. So we want to give you all of that information that you really need about your bursary, about your loan. So this session today is going to be quite technical, going into a lot of detail. Some quick house rules. If you have any questions or comments, on the right is a chat bar. So on that chat bar, you can literally type in, you can ask a question. The full team from the university department is waiting to answer those, so please do. If there are any questions that should be posed directly to an allocated bursary officer, please rather email them. So if they're personal about you, please don't put them. Try keep them as more the general questions. And then lastly, if you are a NSFAS student, if you need to wait right until the end. So non-NSFAS students, the webinar will be about an hour going through all of the information. The last session is specifically for the NSFAS students. So the first hour will be for everyone, including the NSFAS students, but the last hour will be just for the NSFAS students. So that is all I need to say, but we really hope you'll get some incredible value from today. I am now going to introduce Mr. Ari Hanekom. He is the Deputy Director and Head, and he's going to do a welcome and get the ball rolling. So Ari, welcome, over to you. I'm going to drop off, and you've got 10 minutes.
Yes, thank you from my side, Peter. And it is really for me a nice day to start off with a webinar that is so well organized. So to Schoolscape, thank you so much. From my side also, a good day to all parents and students that are attending this webinar. Peter just gave me some information that we, about 3 or 4 minutes ago, there was already 447 students on this webinar. It's so good to hear that. And obviously, as we are speaking, more and more students are slotting into this webinar. Now, my name is Ari Hanekom. I'm the Deputy Director and the Head of the Center for Undergraduate Bursaries and Loans. And my job is to introduce you and then maybe to give you 1 or 2 pointers that you can expect from this webinar. Obviously, as Peter also said, it is about you getting all the relevant information that you need concerning your financial assistance for this year of 2021. And then our staff, my staff will give you obviously more detailed information about the processes and about the bursaries in their own presentations. Now, from my side, I would just like to maybe give you an idea what you can expect. I'm just going to use my tool here to toggle to see if I can get on with the next page. There we are. Financial aid, and the idea is to just run through that few points that I would like to share with you. Now, what can you expect sitting now there while you're listening to me? I think important for me is that you know that NSFAS bursaries are currently available to all students whose family income is below 350,000 Rand per year. So the reason why I'm saying that is the university now focus on the so-called missing middle. In other words, those students coming from families where the gross income is between 350,000 Rand per year and 600,000 Rand per year. That is our key focus. but there's a condition. You should have applied already for financial assistance to the university before the 31st of August in 2020 last year. We work on the basis that people apply online in the previous year, and then we get all the applications in. And the reason for that is that we need to verify, and we need to complete all the applications. And that brings me to the next condition is your application must be 100% submitted and fully completed for us to consider you for financial assistance for this year. Unfortunately, and I'm saying unfortunately, we do not consider any late applications. So I don't want to create expectations. We at this stage, we're not in a position to do that. Then getting to the next point that is important, the COVID pandemic and financial aid. This is a tough one. This is really a tough one for me to communicate to parents, because I know that many students and their families were and are affected by the pandemic in terms of their livelihoods and all of that. But it is not possible for the Financial Aid Office, for the Center for Undergraduate Bursaries and Loans to compensate for all those losses in terms of how we are going to fund students. So we are focusing on those in the missing middle, and we're focusing primarily on tuition fees to assist students with that. Remember that the university also, as a university, do have certain incentives in terms of the effects of the COVID pandemic, and I think their students will have to look at those opportunities there. Then the next pointer there is NSFAS funding. I would like to, and then last year I think this was clear for me that I think students that who applied for NSFAS funding is in a position where they struggle. Some of the applications are unresolved. I'd just like to stress it make it very clear that the university is only administering bursaries and do not make any funding decisions. And all students can also follow their NSFAS status on their My NSFAS portal. It is important that you also are familiarized with that, that you keep on informing yourselves in that regard. Obviously, we assist with the administration of NSFAS funding. The phasing out of loans, I think that is a very important point that I would like to make. Last year, the university decided that all Stellenbosch University loans, those that are interest-free, the bursary loans, that we phased it out at the end of last year. So what we're currently doing is we are busy to finalize our negotiations with 4 of our major banks. And we will communicate the outcome of these negotiations with all our students who apply for financial assistance soon. At this stage, it's not been finalized, so we will keep you informed how that will pan out. Then obviously students apply for financial assistance, and there's some bursaries that university administers internally, and obviously the university also set aside money from their own institutional budget, and those bursaries will be allocated in terms of the timelines that we've communicated at the end of last year to all of those that applied for financial assistance. And later in this presentations, we will also come back to that timelines, and I would like you also to listen carefully there and be patient with us in terms of those timelines. Then obviously we will keep this information on our website, and I'm giving you there the website address where you can go and look at all of that information. I would like to go on to my next slide. I would just like to turn the page here. Let me just quickly check if I can. Yeah, I've done that. I would just like to maybe, there you see, this is our service promise, but I would like to just for 1 second or for half a minute explain the one very challenging service promise that we are currently delivering, and that is timeous responses to email and phones. At this stage, students and parents, we are really struggling to answer all our emails and all our phone calls because of the COVID situation, and because there's a lot of unresolved cases with NSFAS funding. But we've made some plans. We've changed our strategy in terms of the way that we communicate with students. Currently, we're using Teams meetings to invite a number of students. I had about 150 students earlier, where we communicated generic information to them. And we also do that with other groups of students. So just watch the space. We are strategically changing the way that we respond and communicate with students. And I think soon we will have the benefits of that new strategy. So we're taking that serious. We know that it's important for you to get the information, and that you are totally informed. So we're working very hard on that one. That I would like to make it very well. That I would like to make it clear to you that we are cognizant of that fact. Then lastly, our team. I'm not going to name all of them, but we are our line management is the financial office, the Prof. Tan Plessis, the operations and finance manager, executive, and then in our own office we've got front desk people that will diligently look at your information, and then we've got quite a number of bursary officers, but we will announce them as we go. So at this stage, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to my next colleague, and she's going to be Tamsin Lowe, and she will inform you in terms of the questionnaire, the NSFAS allowances, and also the Intellimali business. Thank you so much for that.
Brilliant, Ari. Thank you so much. That was fantastic. Really appreciate it. We're going to drop you off. And then we're going to invite Ms. Tamsin Lowe on stage. So Tamsin, oh, there you are. You are on. Thank you so much. Tamsin, the floor is yours. Thank you so much, Ari. Just a reminder to everyone, I know a lot of questions are coming through on the chat bar. Thank you. Please remember, some of the moderators might ask you to wait a bit later because the information might be answered within the sessions coming. So if they do that, please understand there are quite a few questions coming through. If your question also does get missed, because there are a lot coming through, please also feel free to ask it again. I know we have a lot and it is quite hard to manage, so we'd appreciate your patience. Tamsin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Ari, for that introduction. Just get the presentation. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining me. I'm just going to be taking you through the process of the questionnaire, just some important information that you need to know. Firstly, what is a questionnaire? So a questionnaire, or a survey as we would call it as well, allows us to determine what allowances you need to receive as a student. So it's a host of questions. It gets sent to your student email account. We'll be asking you, where will you be staying for 2021? If it's catered residence, will you be staying at home? If it's private accommodation? So that's basically what the questionnaire is. Who receives this questionnaire? So the questionnaire is applicable for NSFAS funded students. So when we say NSFAS funded students, we are referring to first-time applicants, those who are funded by NSFAS for the very first time, as well as returning or continuing students. So those who were funded in, say, 2020 and are now returning to Stellenbosch University will be funded once again. They also receive the questionnaire. When is the questionnaire sent? So the questionnaire is sent the week after you register, the Monday thereafter. So between Monday to Friday, if you've registered within that time frame, the following Monday you'll receive it. If you register, let's say on a Saturday, it's going to be the week thereafter, that Monday. So it's very important just to note that the questionnaire is a tool that we use that allows us to pay your allowances. So accuracy is key in order to delay or avoid any misspent allowances, basically. So firstly, the questionnaire that's sent to you cannot be sent to your fellow students. It is a once-off questionnaire, so it needs to be completed the very first time in full and complete. And if it is shared with anyone else, it will be regarded as invalid. So I'll just explain what is our guidelines in terms of how we pay allowances and how we align ourselves with NSFAS within this slide. So first and foremost, NSFAS has not yet provided us with a funded list for 2021. So I just need you to know that we are still awaiting the funded list. So when it comes to the questionnaires, so let's say you've selected private accommodation. So the process does take a bit longer, and the reason for this is because we need to check or validate your lease agreement as well as the landlord's ID. So when you select private accommodation, it will ask you to upload a lease agreement, the landlord's ID, and so when checking the lease, we need to make sure that the information in part is correct, as well as the amount that needs to be paid. So all signatures, so that takes a bit longer compared to that of someone staying at residence or at home, where living allowance and things are much easier to calculate. So students who are receiving a capped NSFAS funding, so this means students that registered prior to 2018 or received NSFAS funding prior to 2018, they are capped students. So what this means is that up until we can determine the cost of the studies, only a book allowance will be paid. So a book allowance of 5,200 Rand is a once-off cost that is paid to all students, not only capped, but to all students. But up until we can determine the cost of study, the balance thereof can only be paid thereafter. So how allowances work for Tygerberg campus is that it's paid over an 11-month period. And then for Stellenbosch campus, it is paid over a 10-month period. And this is based on the guidelines, once again, by NSFAS. So how do we actually make the payment? How do you receive your allowances? I think that's the big question that everyone wants to know. I'm sure some continuing students do know that, but for the new guys, so we make use of a service provider. This is our service provider of choice, our paymaster, IntelliMali. So we give them the instruction as to what to pay to a student, how much to pay, if it should be to the student's account directly, or if it can be paid to an accredited service provider. I'm going to make an example such as Nooit Gedacht. It's one of our accredited service providers where we generally pay the accommodation amount directly to them. And the nice thing about this is that when you log onto your student fee account on My Son portal, you'll be able to see what payments have been made. So it will show you 5,200 Rand. You'll know, okay, that's my books that I've just received. So the only thing that I do need to inform you as well is that because IntelliMali is a third-party service provider, so if there are any issues, then you need to contact them directly. So there are a few contact details that we provided over here. But then also to make the process seamless, there is a host or guideline that we'd like you guys just to follow. And this we generally provide, and we usually have it up in the office as well. So in terms of making the payments, so once we make the payment, or we give IntelliMali the instruction, that's when you will then receive an SMS that will contain a code. So it's very important that your cell phone number is captured correctly on the My Son portal, because otherwise you won't be able to receive that code or activate your IntelliMali account. Okay, so it will ask you to log on to their webpage, www.intellimali.coza, enter your student number, enter the code that you've received, and thereafter enter your banking details. Now, I can tell you from past experiences that a lot of students struggled with the banking details. Either it was in mommy or daddy's account and things changed. So I would say from the get-go, if you're funded by NSFAS and your course is about 4 years, make sure that the account is yours and you'll have the same account for that period of time. And thereafter, the money gets paid into your bank account within 1 to 3 working days. So we've just given you a bit of a diagram there in terms of how the payment is made. You get the code, you log on, you capture your banking details, and then it comes into your bank account. All right, and then what happens when you want to make purchases and things like that? This is a list of the service providers. However, I can tell you, if you are going to receive cash, the food and beverage list is not really going to be applicable to you. So you will be able to purchase from any of the other stores. In terms of books, however, Van Skyke, Spunk My Books, and Protea bookshops, these are very nice. I know Protea bookshop is about a 10-minute walk from campus, and they also make secondhand purchases available. So that might help and save you in the long term. Thank you very much for joining me. I would definitely encourage you to please stay behind for the NSFAS colleagues. They will then take you further into detail with regards to the breakdown of allowances and how the questionnaire looks as well. Thank you.
Brilliant. Anton, thank you. That was absolutely fantastic. That was very, very, thorough and to the point. So thank you. I'm now going to invite the next person on stage. So Ms. Bianca Davids, who is the information officer. She'll be coming on stage just to share channels of communications and a couple of other important information. Just a reminder, we did post on the right, at the top right of your screen is a little bell. If you don't want the beeping sound anytime someone asks you a question, you can just tap that and it will kill the notification. Bianca, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bianca Davids, and I'm the Information Officer for the Center for Bursaries and Loans. And I'm going to talk to you a bit about financial aid, our consultation hours, the role of the Contact and Client Services Center, our colleagues there, and I will most definitely be sharing how to get a hold of us at the Center for Bursaries and Loans. So let me get straight to it. Channels of communication. We've partnered with several radio stations to keep you informed. So you'll soon, for all the prospective and current students, you'll soon get notification of where to get the information that will be shared via our radio platforms. Then we also making use of publication media. So we also part of the Open Day initiative that will be happening real soon. We've in the past also been part of a few CakeNet channels, so television media is definitely being utilized even a bit more these days. And then our most important platform that we make use of, and I've mentioned it in our chat bar, is our website. So that is the medium that we make use of to share important information with you and to always keep you informed with anything happening in our space. So if you are unsure about anything with regards to your financial aid, please refer to our website first and foremost. Then we do understand that keeping you informed is definitely one of the key aspects to just being comfortable and just eliminating the anxiety that is obviously associated with financial aid. We want to create a warm environment so that you're comfortable to speak to us, because we do know it's also a personal case and every situation is different from home to home. So to reach out to us, we have an inquiries office, so we're available every single day of the week, 5 days a week, and from 9:30 in the morning up until 12:45 you can reach us via telephone, and then from 13:45 until 4 you will be able to reach us again. And as for our senior bursary officers, our coordinators, they are available 5 days a week from 9:30 up until 11:30. We also understand that in these times with COVID, you might not feel comfortable to come into office. So we've also aligned our processes with that and making sure that you can still reach out to us. And that's why we make use of the Teams platform, where you can have one-on-one consultations with our bursary coordinators to just explain everything to you in I think we've assigned about 10 to 15 minutes per consultation. So that information will be shared with you real soon. Bear in mind that it is COVID, and as the Deputy Director of our office mentioned, we are overwhelmed with a lot of calls and a lot of queries. So just be patient with us. We have a 72-day turnaround time to respond to emails, and we really, really want to get back to each and every one of you, and we're ready to interact with you. But we're just asking for a bit of patience on your end. Then the timelines of the allocation for financial assistance. Most of you must have received a letter from us last year in December, where we shifted our allocation timelines a bit because the academic year obviously is starting a bit later. So from today, our verification for our applications is finalized. So the applications are currently going to the bursary offices that will, from the 14th of May, communicate any outcomes on your application. You can be rest assured that even if you are unsuccessful in your financial aid, we will also communicate that to you. And then from the 21st of May, we will start activating these bursaries onto your student account, because we do know that the 31st of May is the very last day for payments. And we want to obviously have you informed on your financial aid by that time. So if just take down those dates, because we are strictly going to adhere to those dates that we committed ourselves to. All right. Then you must be you must know our colleagues at the Contact and Client Services. They are our partners in client services, and they are always ready to just serve the community of Stellenbosch University. So we have the highest respect for them, and we are positive that they will assist with every first layer of general inquiries that we get at our center. So you can be comfortable when they attend to your query. They are a reliable source. We feed them with information of what's happening in our space on a regular basis. So you can be rest assured that you are getting the information from a trusted source. They are just there to just layer and filter through the layers of the general inquiries that we receive. That's it from my side. If you have any queries regarding just information, any information that you need with regards to financial assistance, please feel free to drop me an email. And all the best to you. Thank you.
Brilliant, Bianca. Thank you so much. And Bianca, well done. I see you've been responding to a lot of the comments and questions on the right. You're doing a great job there with them coming in. So students, thank you for asking your questions. Please note that yours is missed. You can re-ask it or ask your specific bursary officer. Bianca, thank you. We're going to drop you off, and I'm going to introduce Abdullah on stage. He is the corporate funding coordinator, and he's going to give us a bit more information on the Merit Awards. Abdullah, the floor is yours.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Firstly, I just want to apologize for all the ums and the ahs. This is new ground for all of us. It's the first time we're doing this. We have practiced and did a dry run on Friday, but please excuse me if and ah. I'm a bit nervous as well, so please bear with me. Then I just want to welcome all of you to Stellenbosch University, to all the new students. Welcome. You know, you've made it to the university. You've completed your matric. Fantastic. And you've certainly made a good choice to choose Stellenbosch. You are in good hands with us. Also, to our current students, it means that you've also made the progression criteria, and that's why you are here today. So congratulations to you as well. You know, 2020 was a very challenging year for all of us with the COVID pandemic, online learning, you know, lockdowns, curfews, and even deaths in your family. So, you know, kudos to you if you've made it through all the challenges. I was also registered as a special student, last year for non-degree purposes while I was working. So I found it extremely challenging. So I just want to say congratulations, and you've earned your place, and welcome. So let me go on to my presentation. Okay, so the Merit Awards, I'm going to talk about the Merit Awards. So the Merit Awards are basically an award that you don't apply for. It's calculated automatically for top students. So there are two types of Merit Awards, which I will cover further in the presentation, but they are allocated on academic criteria alone. So on academic achievement, all right? No application is needed. You do not apply for this bursary or this award, and they are calculated as a percentage of the basic tuition fees only. So what that means is on your student account, you'll see there's tuition fees and there is program costs and module costs. the 40% or the 20% discount is only based on the tuition fees portion. All right, so that's a note to the parents maybe also who have queries about the calculation that we do. In around at the end of April, we allocate the funds automatically to the student account. So that will happen around the end of April, which is the end of next month. So the first year merit awards, these are for new students. The criteria is that you needed to achieve 90% or higher in matric, and you get a rebate of up to 40%. So that is for basically the top of the top students. Like I said, it's done automatically. You don't apply for it. You will just see it on your student account. You'll see a discount. If you had a remark done, so in the case that you maybe got 88% and you now want to, up it to the 90, or you feel, you've done better, you need to submit your latest results, the remark results, to the admissions office first. And once the results are updated, we will then do the allocation on our side. Okay, the Senior Merit Awards, this is for the top 5% in each faculty. So you need to be in the top 5 percentile of each faculty to qualify for this award. So this would be from second year onwards, based on your first year results, or third year based on your second year results. It's based on, you need to achieve at least a weighted average of not less than 75%. So when we say weighted average, we're not saying your 10 modules percentages divided by 10. We're looking at the credit value. So your majors, for example, carry more credits, and that's what weighted average means. It's done on a case-by-case basis. So if you have come from another institution and you've achieved a weighted average of more than 75%, you can be considered also for this merit award. And then, yeah, so it's done on a case-by-case basis. So you don't despair if you are coming from UWC or any of the other universities. Some of the conditions is that you need to be enrolled for the full number of modules prescribed for the year of study concern. So you can't be first year, second year, or second year, third year. You need to be doing your full second year module education. And then qualifying students will receive a rebate of up to 20%. We say up to 20% because it's not always 20%. It is up to 20% based on the availability of funds that we have, and also the number of students that actually qualify. We also, unfortunately, cannot confirm whether the student qualifies for this bursary beforehand. It's only after the allocation is made, we will receive a report from the faculties. And then just some conditions on the merit bursary, which you might encounter, where the merit bursary might be cancelled. So some of them is that the merit bursary would be cancelled if you do receive a full cost bursary. So if you receive, for example, NSFAS, which covers all your study costs, that is a full cost bursary. We will then cancel the merit bursary because you can't have both, as the full cost bursary will cover all. Another one would be that if you do receive a partial bursary that covers your student fees, for example, just your tuition fees, and you do receive a merit bursary, you can then use the merit bursary, whichever the amount is, depending on what you've received. We can then use that money towards, for example, books or accommodation and things like that. So that's my presentation on the Merit Awards. Thank you very much for listening. And once again, welcome to Stellenbosch University.
Brilliant. Abdullah, you did exceptionally well. It did not look like you were nervous at all, so that was fantastic. Thank you. I am now going to drop you off and invite Noluvuyo on stage. She's going to be just just talking for 5 minutes about, she's the Tygerberg Bursary Officer. So she's going to be talking about that specifically. I know this will not be relevant for everyone out there. Please note it is a short session, and afterwards we still have sessions on institutional funding, recruitment bursaries, external corporate funding, as well as the NSFAS information. So please, don't drop off if this is not relevant to you. Noluboya, welcome on stage. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Peter. Morning, all students. I'm going to be talking about the Standard Bank loan that the faculty is offering. The Standard Bank loan is funding that is offered to the MBCHB 4 and 5, as well as the final year allied students. This fund was generated because the faculty saw a financial need for students, because especially those that were in the recruitment bursary, because it funded them for the first 4 years of their studies. And then when it came to their 5th year, they didn't have any funding. So the faculty decided to open this channel of funding for the students. Why is it only for 5th and final year students as well as final for the allieds? It's because that group of students is guaranteed that when they go into community service, they'll be having a guaranteed job where they can be able to pay back whatever the faculty stood surety for. So who is eligible? As I've explained before, it's only the final year allied students, MBCH 5 and MBCHB 6 only. What is the interest rate that is charged on the loan? It is the prime rate. But the only difference is the parents' family income does not play a role in this situation. The faculty is standing surety for the student, as well as the student is not supposed to service the loan, like paying interest while the student is still studying. The interest will be charged on their account, but it will be frozen. Then the student, once the student starts working, then they can pay back the amount. If one is interested in this type of funding, you can contact the bursaries office in Tygerberg. You can either email us or you can schedule a Teams consultation. The contact details for our office are in there. My email address is nkapsana@sun, as well as my colleagues, Miss Sylvester at sun. Please, students are only given a minimum or a maximum, let's say a maximum of 20 minutes for the consultation. This is to guide you, because what we've noticed is that when we're sending emails back and forth, at times the information is missed. So that is best when the student is sending us the consultation and we speak to them so that they can ask questions. And when the call is dropped, everything is clear. We send the quotation to Standard Bank and let them communicate with Standard Bank. So should you be interested, you can send an email or schedule a Teams consultation. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you, Noluboya. That was fantastic. We appreciate you coming on. Everyone, well done. You are doing really well. We're now going to invite Abdullah back on stage, who is going to talk about institutional funding. So Abdullah is the statutory funding coordinator, who is going to jump back in. And just, everyone, please shake your hands, move your body. I know it's a long session and there's a lot of information and a lot of great questions coming through. So please do stay tuned and concentrating. We are nearly there. Abdullah, over to you.
Hi everyone, me again, Abdullah here. Okay, so let me just pull up the slide. All right. So my office, or myself, my portfolio incorporates the merit bursaries, which I spoke about earlier. And there are about 50 funds that I administer as well, which are either partial or full bursaries. Okay. And then I just want to give you guys an example of what could happen. So let's say you receive a bursary of 100,000 Rand and your fees are 40,000 Rand or 50,000. Let's make it 40,000. So there's a surplus of 60,000 Rand. These this 60,000 rand can then be used towards your other, your other needs like books, accommodation, and meals. So you can always contact me, and then we can allocate it through IntelliMali, and we can pay for your books or whatever your needs are. It's specific to each student. The funding that I administer, as previously mentioned by Mr. Arianakom, it focuses on the missing middle bracket. We call them the missing middle because they're almost like the forgotten students. NSFAS covers, most of the students, so that's why we call them the missing middle, which is the 350,000 to 600,000 per annum gross income bracket. And then academic performance. So I've mentioned the merit bursaries are academic, it's based on academic merit. So I can't stress enough, guys, that academic performance is a key factor to firstly get the bursary and to keep the bursary as well. All right. We actually had a case now where one of our bursars or donors, they had 5 students, which each received 100,000 rand last year. 2 of them failed. In spite of the COVID, they dropped the 2 students and they're not interested in funding these students. On top of that, they also decided to reduce our allocation for 2021. So, your academic performance is not only affecting yourself, you could also affect your fellow students by not performing well. So academic performance is key to getting these bursaries and keeping it. And I wish you all of the best. I know it's not easy. Some of you are going to be new to the university space, so please try your best, work hard, and you will reap the rewards. Because, as you know, to study is not cheap. Okay. Okay, the funding comes from various sources such as private donors and other funders like testamentary trusts. So we have some good people who have passed on, and in the world they have requested that a certain portion, a few millions, be allocated to students for studies. So that's fantastic, all right? So take advantage of these opportunities. The loans have been phased out. We used to have a Stellenbosch University loan. We are currently in talks with the banks to see how we can find solutions to that, where we can offer loans. Nothing has been set in stone yet. We are working on something. So we will keep you posted. Check the website for more information. The application period, as mentioned earlier by my colleague, so it runs from the 3rd of May to the 31st of August. It is crucial that you apply for these bursaries. If you do not apply, we will not be able to nominate you for any of these bursaries. So we won't know your income. We won't know where you stay, for example. We won't know the things that we need to know to nominate you for these bursaries. So please apply, guys. Very important. A lot of students don't apply and they miss out on these opportunities. I also administer the departmental bursaries. So these are for top students or financially needy students that are nominated by the faculties themselves. So speak to your faculty also about things like that. That's also administered by our office, but it's allocated by the faculty. Okay, so the bursaries are allocated throughout the year, but please refer to the timelines on the website that we mentioned earlier, as those are usually the timelines that we stick to. All right. So please take note of the timelines. And then once a bursary is awarded, it's not automatically awarded every year. You have to reapply for the bursary, whether it's whatever bursary you've received, you have to reapply. As you know, funds are limited everywhere. COVID has also hit us, so please please know that we have quite a thorough process in choosing you or nominating you for these bursaries. So we take we take the necessary steps to ensure we get the correct students on board. International students, if there are any in the audience today, please note that funding is very limited, unfortunately. The international office has also made some bursaries available, so you can maybe contact the international office as well. And then we have what's called external bursaries. So some bursaries have different application dates. I'll give you one example, the Dippenaar Family Trust. So these have different application dates. They are usually published on the website as well. So sometimes what happens is these forms are physically sent to the Dippenaar Family Trust, and they physically go through the application forms and they look at the criteria. So the criteria could range from where you stay, your academic performance, which high school you went to, things like that. There's many criteria. So please be aware of the criteria and that there are other bursaries which we call external bursaries. And then just to touch on the Development and Alumni Relations Office, they are tasked with fundraising. So they are continually trying to get more funds for Stellenbosch University students, which is fantastic for you. They are trying their best to source more funds all the time and just to make more funds available for our students. Thank you. That's it for me.
Brilliant. Thank you. That is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to drop you off stage and just now invite Ari back on stage just to talk about the recruitment bursaries, just to give everyone kind of line of sight of where we're at. Ari's going to speak for about 5 minutes. We're then going to talk about external corporate funding for about 5 minutes, and then there will be a session for the NSFAS students only. I see we have a lot of NSFAS questions coming in, so that will be in about 10 minutes, and hopefully they'll be able to answer all of your questions. So well done. I know we've done already a good 45 minutes and there's still some more to go, so please keep going with us. Ari, over to you to talk about recruitment bursaries.
Thank you so much, Peter. I'm going to just try to page to the next. Let me just do that quickly. There's the recruitment bursaries. I would just like to set my alarm so that I don't go over the time, Peter. There's a lot of questions in the inbox, and I'm actually tempted to answer some of them. But let me try to focus on the recruitment bursaries. I'm standing in for Tulia George. Sadly, a mother passed away yesterday afternoon, so this is why you're seeing me again here. Now, the recruitment bursaries are allocated by the Center for Student Recruitment and Career Advice, and so there's no application. You can't apply for it. That is just to share this information with some of you that may sit here and think about what is the recruitment bursaries. Then, if once you've received the recruitment offer, you must accept it or you must decline it, and those who accepted it must remember that there's a few conditions. One of the conditions is that to continue to qualify for the continuation of this recruitment bursaries, you need a weighted aggregate of 60%, quite high. So 60 means 60 and not 59.9. I can assure you that we've never, rounded off any of these weighted averages. So it's either 60 or it's unfortunately you've missed it. The reallocation of these bursaries are programmatically. We do it automated. So that is what we're currently doing. The early signs is that the recruitment students did quite well last year. I think they focused so much on the academic work that they actually did better than previous years. One thing that is important here is students that qualifies for the recruitment bursaries. In other words, if you check on your academic record, you've passed with 60% weighted aggregate last year, that will give you an indication whether you're qualified or not. So we are currently busy with the programmatic process to upload those bursaries, and those students do not need to pay any compulsory deposits for tuition at the beginning of this year. So you will be able to register, you'll be able to activate your student card. This year, the new intake for 2021, strategically the university decided to recruit less students than previous years, but to change the recruitment bursary from tuition fee only bursary to a full cost bursary. And on the screen you can see that the new 2021 intake, those bursaries will cover the books and the meals and tuition and also accommodation up to a certain maximum. Then I would just like to quickly dwell on other bursaries that Ms. George is administering. Most of the other bursaries are basically allocated on a basis of nomination. In other words, we received your applications last year at the end of August last year. Those applications are now completed, and we will work with those students that applied timeously, and we are now busy with the trustees. Bear in mind that the trustees are doing the final selection of candidates that we nominate to those donors, external donors. And this is now specifically focusing on the so-called missing middle group. Bear in mind that every donor do have its own specific criteria and conditions. Then lastly, I would just like to make sure that there's an update about the current bursary schemes that Ms. George is administering. The Doris Crosley Scholarship, that has been done and dusted. We will inform those students whether they've been successful or not. The Bloemhof Trust has already been finalized. Those students has been informed. The Vlaktebeheers, we are busy with that. We're going to see the Herzog donors about those bursaries. The PSG and the Jannie Maton bursaries has not been finalized, so we're still in the process, as well as the Piet Neteling still in the process, the Twee Huguenote is still in the process, and the Dr. T.E. Junius is on a continuous basis. We've already nominated students, and there's some positive results, but that is in a nutshell the other bursaries administered by Ms. Tulia George. That is just an update from my side. Thank you, Peter. I'm handing over now to my following colleague, Nicholas Poswayo.
Brilliant. So invite Nicholas on the stage. Thank you, Harry. And Nicholas, you can come on stage. So Nicholas is the corporate funding coordinator, and he's going to be just talking for 5 minutes on external corporate funding. So here he comes. Brilliant. Nicholas, the floor is yours for the next 5 minutes. Welcome on stage. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Thank you. Good morning, students. My name is Nicholas Poswayo. I am the corporate fund coordinator at the Center for Bursaries and Loans. I deal with external funds and corporate funds. There are two types of external funds. Funds where the student applies directly to the fund and normally contractual obligation. Those are bursaries normally administered, and the application process, all of that is administered directly by the company. Those bursaries normally entail the student working in terms of a work by contract with the fund. Also funds where the funder approaches the university via the fundraising office and has certain criteria for their donation, managed by the Center for Undergraduate Bursaries and Loans. That will be me. You can ask yourself, how can you be considered for these funds? All students who apply for financial assistance via the university's website and submitted some supporting documents will be eligible to be nominated. How does the nomination process work? Once a funder has sent through the necessary criteria for a specific fund, the bursary coordinator will source suitable candidates matching the criteria and present a list for nomination purposes. The funder does the selection, the final selection. So we only nominate and send and send the nomination to the funder. The funder will do the final selection. At this point, the bursary coordinator will set up consultation via Teams with the successful candidates. Once everything is finalized and the bursary coordinator allocated the funds, the student account will be credited with the bursary. In terms of timelines, funders approach the university throughout the year, so which means please do not be discredited if you are not maybe approached in the first semester, as we do nominations throughout the whole year. And sometimes we do go to the following year, but normally we try to stick within the academic year. Some students can be nominated multiple times until being successful, which means that we will keep on sending names to certain donors if you still meet the criteria, even though maybe you didn't meet the criteria for another list we sent before. External funds where recruitment bursaries are involved. Students who receive recruitment bursaries value equivalent to tuition fees can and will be nominated for external funds. If the external funds are equal to or exceed the tuition fee amount, the university has the right to cancel the recruitment, meaning that if you do get a bursary which is more than the recruitment, the recruitment will fall away, but you will see that when you sign your recruitment contract. If a donor states that they would like to earmark their money for books, accommodation, meals, or traveling, then the recruitment bursary will stay intact. So if a funder is funding you for your books and meals and all of that, and if it's stated in that fund, sometimes the recruitment bursary will remain in your account. External funds where merit awards are involved. If a student receives a full cost bursary from a funder, the university has the right to cancel the merit award. Details regarding this policy can be found on the Center of Undergraduate Bursaries and Loans website. The university strives to assist students who are in dire need and have proven to be academically deserving of a bursary. So it is the utmost importance that the student does pass and tries to have good marks so that we are able to assist the students. Thank you.
Brilliant. Nicholas, thank you so much. I'm going to drop you off stage now. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the first part of the session. We still are about to go into the NSFAS presentation. So for those of you that are not NSFAS students, you can drop off. For those that are NSFAS, please stay on. I know we've had about 100 questions come in, but everyone, thank you so much for the non-NSFAS students. We really appreciate your time. I know there's been lots of questions. Please remember, if you do have any questions, you can email your bursary officer. Just remember, it is a crazy period, so there are lots of emails and questions. So there is a 72-hour response time. So please bear with that. But we appreciate your time. And for those of you students that are dropping off, we hope you have an incredible year. I am now going to invite Cully Sauls and Lynette Williams just to talk about NSFAS. But I think for the NSFAS students, maybe stand up, shake yourself, have a 2-second break. Just while they come in, they're going to be presenting live from my office. So to everyone else, thank you. NSFAS students, stand up, stretch while I bring them on stage.
Hi, good morning. It's still morning, can you believe it? Welcome to this part of the presentation. I hope that you are comfortable on that side. And myself, I'm Cully Sauls, and my colleague next to me is Lynette, and we're going to walk you through the National Student Financial Aid Scheme presentation, also known as NSFAS. And I hope that you will get the information that we're going to present to you and find it quite informative. So if I can start, if you can just help me, where do I control that? Apology. Just give me a second, I'll be with you in a second. Okay, so I just got that. All right, sorry for that, just a little hiccup, the technology. From that you can obviously see that I'm a little bit older than 50. Nonetheless, so what is NSFAS? Oh, you've heard about NSFAS in the news. Some of you most likely even applied for NSFAS. NSFAS is the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, and it was established by means of Act 56 of 1999, and they were given the mandate of funding students that come from poor households as well as working class students in our population, and thereby providing bursaries and loans. The part of the loans obviously has been discontinued, so NSFAS no longer offer loans anymore, but they just offer bursaries to eligible students in the higher and further education and training environment. So students that have studied before, in other words, we categorize students in two groups. When you want to apply for NSFAS, NSFAS will look at you from the perspective of, are you a first-time entrant, also known as F10s? Sorry, I'm just putting on my glasses. And in other words, if you enter the system from 2018 and thereafter, we consider you to be a full cost student or an F10. That means that you are being assessed on the 350 Rand household income per annum, and that makes you eligible in terms of the NSFAS full cost bursary. In other words, that's a full bursary. So that is students that start in the system from 2018 right through to 2020 last year. So students who have studied or registered prior to 2018 do not receive a full cost bursary. Yes, that's correct. They do not receive a full cost bursary. They are what we consider also as cap students. In other words, NSFAS determines the annual cap for the student's average cost per year, and that is the amount that NSFAS will provide for those students in terms of eligibility and the stuff that they will cover in terms of the bursary. So that's a part bursary, if you can call it like that. It is not a full cost, and we consider them to be cap students. Anybody in the system, so even if you come to university or you've been to university before, you change university and you come as a first year to Stellenbosch University, we will not consider you to be an F10 because you were in the system before 2018, and thus you will be treated as a recipient that will be assessed for funding eligibility on 120 or 122K, apology, for the financial assessment, and then basically you will also then be considered to be a cap student. In terms of the academic eligibility, we will walk into that a little bit later, but keep that in mind. We're talking about the N+ rule, and I'm just quickly going to elaborate on that in a brief way. N is the number of years, in other words, your program's duration, and an extra 2 years is 2 years that is provided in terms of the total eligibility period that you can receive NSFAS funding. This particular portion obviously is related to students that are what we call cap students into the system, in other words, before 2018. Now, who qualifies for NSFAS? I've already hinted to you in terms of the household income that you see on the screen there. You need to be a South African citizen, not a resident. You need to be a South African citizen. And then obviously, we pay special attention to students that are falling in what we call the SASSA grant recipients category. And those are students that will be assessed, in a particular way to speed up a process of assessment to determine eligibility. So we give special care to that group of students, and we always invite them to come and apply for NSFAS funding for the academic year. The combined household income policy that we talked about earlier relates to students what we consider to be in the working class, if I use that term for a lack of words at this moment. And the assessment is done then on eligibility based on 350,000 per annum for the household, and they will then be assessed on full cost bursaries, as I said. Remember again, first time entrance, I said it earlier, started in the system after 2018 or 2018 onwards. So if you are sitting in this crowd and you are part of that, you will obviously be assessed on that basis if you fall in that category. So students who registered prior to 2018, I already hinted that, and that will be assessed on the basis of a household income not exceeding 122 rand per annum. In other words, for the household. So that is for students that we consider, and we mentioned earlier, CAP students, and that is based on the household income, and eligibility is based on that 122K that I said. Persons with disability, we show particular interest in persons with disability, and NSFAS invites students in this category to also apply. The assessment is slightly different. So if you've got some, disability or also ailment that relates to disability, then you are welcome to apply for NSFAS, but you will be assessed on 600 Rand per annum when they determine eligibility on household income for the NSFAS, what we also call the disability bursary from NSFAS, also known as DEDISA. But don't break your head about that. A little bit more about that later. So what does NSFAS pay for? This bursary that you're talking about, full cost, and the other one, cap fees. Okay, NSFAS pay obviously, first of all, for residents. Okay, NSFAS pay for residents, and that depends on the category of residents that we place you in. So in other words, you can either stay in your residence at university, and there is catered facility. In other words, you eat there, and you go and do your meal there during the day, on the evening, on the morning, whatever the case might be. And they'll then call you staying in what we call a catered residence. Residences that's got the facilities to cater for meals where students book those meals. Then obviously the second one we into is accredited private accommodation. Now we put the emphasis on accredited. You might have seen in the news that NSFAS and DHET, Department of Higher Education, has given us a directive in terms of their recommendation that says that students should therefore aim to be placed in accredited private accommodation. That is to protect, the interests of the student and make sure that they are staying well and that they will do what they came to do here in the first place, and then at the end of the day there won't be any problem. So there is a rule that refers to accredited private accommodation where the student will be accredited, or placed in accredited accommodation that will be handled by the University Residence Department. Then if you're living at home, that's another category. That means that you also fall in a category where we will assist you accordingly to determine what kind of allowances will be applicable to you. And that obviously will be in a sense of you will receive what we call your home allowance or your assistance allowance at home, as well as your book money. And all of that together will make up the package of students that are living at home. So you could either stay by your parental home, a little bit further than this outside of Stellenbosch, or you could obviously stay in the university town Stellenbosch within walking range of or walking reach of the campus. Okay, so in terms of the rest of the cost pillars, all right, we already mentioned the allowances in terms of accommodation. We classified that, so you have a clear understanding is how we look at you when we determine what funding you will receive and what components will be attached to that. All students get tuition fees paid to the university. In other words, the university determines the cost then in terms of the DHET guidelines, increases, etc. included, and that cost will then be covered by the bursary. Again, I said that it's full cost for students that are entering the system for the first time, and they will have that tuition fees covered. The university will unfortunately not pay it to you, no sir, no ma'am. They will pay it directly to the university from NSFAS side. Okay, then all students, and I include all students, will receive and I'm using last year's caps, please. We haven't got the figures for book money, study material yet. So all students will receive a 5,200 Rand per year for books, which will be paid to you in cash. And I believe that we've hinted, relating to the method of payment or the mode of payment that we use. And you've heard maybe the term Imali. Imali is simply the payment service that we utilize to disburse allowances in cash to our students that are DHET and NSFAS recipients. You got that? All right. So NSFAS pays according to a 10-month cycle. That implies that this year, unfortunately, we're not starting in February because we're already past February. The time goes fast. So at the end of the day, we will count it then from March, okay, over to December, end of the year. And that will stretch over 10 months. You get that allowance accordingly month on month via the system that I just mentioned in Imali. And then for our Tygerberg students on the other side of Stellenbosch, they will obviously receive it over 11 months. Remember, same amount, there's not an additional amount, same amount over 11 months, and that will also be disbursed via the IntelliMali payment system. Now, what if I stay at home, right? You're still fine by staying at home, so you'll obviously travel to campus, whether it be Tygerberg campus or Stellenbosch main campus, as you call it. You're missing out, folks. Nonetheless, your travel allowance will also be spread over 10 months. And again, I reiterate, I am talking about last year. So when I say 750 per month in cash, I refer to amounts. As soon as we go, obviously share that with you, you'll be the first to know. Living allowance for 10 months, okay, that will account to 1,500 Rand per month, and that will also stretch over the same time, 10 months. And then obviously the total contribution or the total amount that you will receive, then they will come out to 2,250 Rand per month over 10 months, March to December, and that obviously can still change in terms of the amounts that needs to be confirmed for 2021. Okay, folks, are you still with me? I can't see you, but I suppose you're still wide awake. Let's continue. Residents with meals, catered residents at university, as we mentioned earlier. So your residence accommodation fees will also be paid in full. But remember, this residence accommodation cost will obviously come as a total cost package. So that will include both your meals as well as your accommodation. And there we cater for an amount of 24,130, again, 2020 figures. All right? So that is when we say you stay in residence, you don't have to worry. That will be paid in full if you are a student that entered the system 2018 and thereafter. So those folks that are starting with us for the first time, that is obviously relating to you. And then there is also a reminder that we always post to you in terms of the meals. That is obviously an upload system, and you will obviously get more information from your environment when you go to the residence. And you will have to obviously make sure that you have upload the necessary quota, that's what they call it, meal quota, before or on the end of August in order for you to have sufficient supply for the rest of the year. Then there is an incident allowance for those students in catered residence amounting to 2,900 per year, and that works out roughly to 290 Rand per month, also disbursed by IntelliMali. So again, just a reminder, these amounts are relating to 2020. We're still waiting for the updated amounts. So what about our folks that are staying in private accommodation? So obviously accredited private accommodation. And obviously, you know that there is an issue. We don't have enough space for everyone. We would love to have all your folks, but unfortunately, we do have a shortage. Some are of beds in terms of accommodation at our institution. So therefore, we don't have a choice like any other institution in the country. We have to obviously revert or resort to private accommodation. And the monthly rental there for last year again worked out a maximum of 54,000, obviously over 10 months. And all of that is obviously paid and go through IntelliMali. So the folks there also will get a monthly meal allowance of 1,500 Rand over 10 months. It worked out 15,000 for the year. And obviously that relates to full cost students, obviously. Then cap students. I mentioned earlier the difference between the two. The one is a full cost bursary and the other one is a part bursary worked on a cap determined by NSFAS and DHCT. And therefore the cost will obviously have to be determined in terms of the difference of what your tuition fees and accommodation and books is, etc. So the tuition fees is always the first component that we will cover. But I think in a separate engagement, we will obviously speak to students that fall within this category regarding the cap amount and the differences relating to what I just mentioned. So the university is in process, given the current circumstances that we are experiencing in terms of a shortage of funding in the general space. We are obviously opting for different options to try and find and source funds to basically assist these students that will obviously relate to cap students that receive only a certain amount for the year and their cost might exceed that amount. But that information obviously will be shared with you if it wasn't already shared in part with most of the cap students. So we then basically will just, before we go on, we just need to make sure that you understand, again, there's two groups of students. You have a student that is called an F10, entered the system either this year or lastly hasn't studied at another institution before, and you'll be considered to be a F10 first-time entrant. And then obviously you have your CAP students at the end of the day that we have mentioned that will receive a CAP amount, like I mentioned earlier, that work on what the DHET and NSFAS determine per year. So after we've talked through all these other things now, what is the next step? Obviously, there will be an exchange of information in terms of the categories that we just mentioned. So information will have to be given by us to you, as we are doing now, but it will also have to be returned by you in terms of the categories. In other words, we will ask you where you stay, are you traveling, etc., etc. And then obviously we will have to process that information accordingly. And that is done through a process that we call a survey or questionnaire information gathering process. And at the end of the day, that will just be a simple process where we send a notice out to you called a survey. We will then request information from you. And obviously we will require a student number, and on the screen you can see the information quite clearly what we require, and you just have to obviously capture it accordingly. And then basically you just follow the rules that our nice people has placed here, and you will obviously answer the questions in terms of where and what allowance you should be eligible for. So that information is gathered through the survey, and once it's gathered, you provide it to us, and we pass it on to our people that deals with the date for payment, and they will then process it accordingly. That's why, folks, it's so important for you to provide us with the correct information. So if we ask you where you're staying, all right, we will trust that you will provide us the correct information. You're staying at home, residence, or private accommodation, and therefore you will obviously fall in those categories that I mentioned earlier. Okay, the next thing is that the allowance questionnaire will also include the residences of private nature where you stay. So if you stay in a private accommodation or accommodation residence that house DHET NSFAS students like yourself, I suppose, then obviously you will have to provide that information to us. So that information will have to correspond with what we have and what you've provided us in order for us to do a successful processing of the allowances, like I mentioned earlier. So please make sure, folks, that you get a good grip on this. Read, please, through that questionnaire. Make sure that you don't do it in haste. Remember, if you don't provide us with correct information, then that can obviously delay the process, or it can obviously lead to incorrect capturing and processing of such data for the allowance disbursement and underpayment, or even overpayment for that matter. So the allowance questionnaire, we will require you to basically fill it in once you have all the information. So in other words, if you are not having all the information, don't do part completion of the information or just part of it in the system. Just make sure that you got all of that, and make sure that you give us all the information once you have that. If you're not certain about private accommodation, first sort that out, and then basically try and keep that streamlined so that we know where you stay, and we can basically disseminate the information correctly to upload that on our system. If you register, for example, over a weekend, then obviously we're relating to a timeline there. So you will obviously have to give us some time to work with it. So most likely receive it either the next Monday or Tuesday. And basically that will be the timeline that you can look at. Once completed, it will take about 7 working days, estimate, for the cash to reach your bank account via the IntelliMali system. How am I doing so far? I'm really running through this. Folks, let me just take a deep breath. That's good. You're doing the same. So what other components, relate to the cost breakdown of what NSFAS will pay for, right? This is something that we call sundry expenses. Some of you might know it because you might have dealt with it at school when you did accounting and all of that stuff. This is simply items that is in some instances unspecified. In other words, it could be your student card. Yes, folks, that little piece of plastic costs money. And then obviously network registration. You will have to obviously be connected to our network in order to do what you can do here, to study, access our web services and platforms. And therefore your machine or your device will have to be connected, and that is called the network registration levy, as we just mentioned. Now, printing, we created last year for 1.3, and then obviously your folks staying in private accommodation or traveling from home was actually introduced already. We're actually already introduced to the PSO, which is the private association, whatever they call it nowadays. If you are living at home, and that association obviously caters for students, their well-being, their affairs to be part of some form of a cluster for support, social and otherwise, and that unfortunately costs money. So that is then sort of placed under PSO fees. House fees, folks that stays in residence, there is a house fee. Also leave it against students that stay there on the fee account, and we include that in the cost, that we obviously send to NSFAS. And then obviously a little bit of washing quota. Careful handling that one, folks, because at the end of the day, we only cater for 1 2. And if you are forming part of the PSO cluster and the nice people, they say to you, listen, we're going to give you a little goodie bag, with a gift in, etc., something to drink, something nice to eat. Please, folks, remember, we do not pay for that. So whatever the cost is there, whether it be 800 Rand or less, you will have to cater it for yourself. So even if the folks tell you, listen, don't worry, you don't have to pay for it, you can go on your account. Just keep in mind, you're going to have to rake up that ching and pay for it. Okay, so the conditions and obligations. So this is a two-way thing. So obviously you have some obligation, we have some obligation, as NSFAS and DHET also has. So students on the full DHET bursary may not receive another full cost bursary. Referring to students, folks, that are registering this year, registered last year, or even registered in 2019 or 2018 as F10s, you are not allowed to hold another full cost bursary. So DHET itself is a full cost bursary, so you cannot double them. That's what we call it. So unfortunately, you will have to make a decision, and you will have to inform us to say, kind people, I've been blessed, I've got all this money, what do I do now? We'll have to take one away. You can't have everything. Sorry. If the student receive a partial bursary from another source, obviously we will apply the same kind of formula. We will say, okay, what is the total cost of study? And that will relate to what the amounts that you will offer in terms of the award, either DHET and the other bursary together. And obviously DHET in most instances becomes the primary source of the bursary platform, and the difference in terms of the cost will then be worked back to DHET, or as I would say, it will be reduced accordingly. Bursary funding for university is limited to the minimum period of study for the qualifications they are registered for plus 1 year. So all students that enter the system 2018 and thereafter, you will be assessed on academic eligibility. As much as we love to have you here longer, we only want you to stay for the period that you're supposed to stay. So that will work on an N+1. And again, folks, what did I say? N is the duration of study. If you do a BCom 3 years, that's the N, plus another extra year, once obviously subject to academic assessment year on year, and then basically that will work out as N+1. So that is the maximum period that you will be funded for if you're an F10 entrant into the system there from 2018 and onwards. Then going on with the academic requirements rules. So this will allow you to be funded for that period in terms of your course detail, and I made the example already, but you will have to obviously be assessed obviously in the larger way. And that by that I mean that we will have to look at it holistically. So it's not just meeting the requirement in terms of the number of years, but you will have to also meet the requirement in terms of that specific year. An assessment will be done at this stage based on a 50% pass of all your subjects. So you've got to pass at least 50% of all the subjects that you are registered for that particular year to be assessed favorable for continuation of the DHET bursary based on the N+1 rule. So there's a lot of hard work to be done there, but I take it you a couple of folks that will do it easily. I can see your bright star out there. The university will be responsible, obviously, to make recommendations based on the fact that the student did not meet, for example, the requirement or need an extension of this extra N+1 year. And then basically that will be done based on the circumstances that is, is visible in terms of your performance for that year and any other circumstances that might have contributed to a poorer performance, okay, that led to you either having to be reviewed in terms of your academic standing. So unfortunately, you don't get just an academic year of funding extra. It doesn't work like that. That result will have to be assessed by a panel in terms of eligibility, and that detail will obviously be communicated to you as we go along. So your N+ rule start obviously with your first year, and again I reiterate, if you are first year Stellenbosch, but you were first year elsewhere as well, then you will not be considered as an F10, and you will then have to be assessed on what we call a cap student status. just to come back to that, folks, it's realistic. Life happens. So you will need assistance at some stage of your studies at Stellenbosch. And we want to encourage you to please seek assistance, because there are support services available that will basically help you and will assist you in terms of the challenges that you will face in terms of academic and otherwise. Please make use of that. Very good services, and it's largely free of charge. What about reapplication? I've got NSFAS this year, DHET. What do I do next year? Do I reapply? No, folks. You don't reapply again. It's an automatic transfer to the next year in terms of the eligibility. And then basically you will have to just make sure that you meet the academic requirements, register for that next year, and basically you will be funded for that year based on the N+1 rule. Statements. Yeah, something you don't want to hear, but that's the reality. Cost money to be at university. So even if you are a bursary student, whether you're a DHET student or any other bursary student, whether there's a letter given to the university, funding department or bursaries, you will still get a statement most likely in the account, in the mail or email via electronic means. That implies that the university's got an obligation to still keep you up to date in terms of what is happening. So even if you're funded by NSFAS, don't despair. If all your stuff is in order, then you know NSFAS will eventually take care of that. So you will still receive an account. So if you get it, if you feel comfortable that you've done what you needed to do, then basically that will be the help of it. As we said, earlier in some discussions, that NSFAS pays in tranches because they are a government institution, so they basically will pay us in bits and bags, but they will eventually pay everything, and then you don't need to worry about, why is my account not paid? Then some background process, folks. All of what I said obviously map out to how we do things that you don't normally see. So obviously you're a NSFAS funded student, you confirm, we've congratulated you, you're ready to go, and now what happened next? That's our part, our responsibility, our obligation is to make sure that we package the NSFAS data in order that it's required. In other words, we will take the information that will relate to your profile. We will say Mr. X is doing a BCom, this is what it costs. This is the program breakdown in terms of the cost for tuition fees. He stays in residence, it costs him so much. He's supposed to get a meal allowance inclusive of that, and all of that cost will obviously be packaged in terms of our data breakdown, and that package obviously will be done in such a way that it covers all the components of your bursary detail, and that will then be sent to NSFAS. So that's why, folks, it's important that you complete that other thingy that we call the survey correctly, so that we can get the correct amount. So once NSFAS receive this information, they will then process it accordingly, and then basically that will obviously then result into what we call an NBA. So NBA is just the agreement between you and NSFAS, where it confirms that you are not a ghost, you're really studying at Stellenbosch University, and basically there's an agreement between you and NSFAS or the state in terms of DHET bursary, and that is what the NBA is all about. So NSFAS will notify you once that is available based on what I just said earlier in terms of the information that was successfully processed. The part that I never liked, but it's something we need to talk about. Do not do the following, folks. You see that right hand side there? Do not do that. All right? So I know you guys are not going to do it because you're a good couple of folks here. So you don't add, delete modules or subjects during the part of the year. We recommend that you rather manage that by consulting with your faculty, and that is done at the end of a year. If you discontinue your studies, we know life happens. So if you discontinue your study, you need to inform the relevant parties. That is the bursary office, the faculty, obviously, and there are certain documentation that you will have to submit in order to make sure that you don't get a surprise in the mail. So at the end of the day, rather add or remove modules at the end of the year, going into the next year, and plan better there. And then at the end of the day, private accommodation, please don't walk out of your private accommodation. You have got an obligation between yourself and the service provider there. That is something that you need to deal with responsibly, because there is a contractual obligation from your side. You signed it or your parents signed it. Don't change degrees like I said earlier. Rather do it at the end of the year with consultation with your faculty and support services. And then basically summer school, that is an extra opportunity where you get the opportunity to redo a subject. Not all faculties, but some faculties, and then you get that information from your relevant faculty. They provide another opportunity for you to write. Unfortunately, folks, we don't cover that. We don't pay for that. So you'll have to find the means to pay for that yourself. And then clubs and societies, like I said, unfortunately, these clubs and societies are not sundry expenses, so they are not covered under the normal umbrella of expenses, that are not specified. And then coming to exceed your quotas, etc., you will have to pay for it yourself if it so happens that you exceed, the component that we made available for you for the year. Then my nice colleague here, Ms. Williams, will just walk you through the process quickly of the NVA.
So could you mention two things Bianca just requested, that the NSFAS stuff is going to be processed from today. There's a lot of questions on that. And sorry, so two things. If you could just say NSFAS allowances will be processed from today, and they can check the website for NSFAS updates.
Okay, folks, I just got some fresh information from the press here. NSFAS information and NSFAS stuff will be updated today. Is that correct?
The
allowances will be updated
will be
today.
processed from today.
Sorry, will be processed from today. Sorry.
And they can check the website for updates.
And your place to check is the website for any updates related to this. That's all, Pete? Yes, thank you so much. Lynette, sorry for your time. You can go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome all Marties. The old ones, welcome back. To the new ones, congratulations and welcome to Stellenbosch. I'm going to speak to you about the NSFAS bursary agreement. That is the NBA. Everyone is just talking about the NBA, but they could tell you that stands for NSFAS bursary agreement. This is your contract. And then if you sign this contract with NSFAS, it says that you are accepting all the terms and conditions that comes along with this bursary contract. You're going to only sign it once while studying. And then for the other years, they will just pay, but just bear in mind, you need to pass that half of your modules that you were registered for the previous year. Okay, let me take you through that process. If you must sign your NBA, there will be an email that gets sent to you by NSFAS. Okay, you just click on that link, and then you go on there to sign the agreement online. It is not a form or something that you need to print out. Everything is just done on the computer. When you're on that page, you just enter your ID number. When you click there, you check your cell number because the moment you click on there, there will be a one-time PIN that is sent to your cell number. And just remember, this is the cell number that you get registered at NSFAS. The OTP is sent to your cell number. You enter that OTP and you just click login. Okay. It's very important to read through your MVA to just find out and view if all the details are correct on the agreement form. Check for errors, check that your details are correct, your surname, the year of the bursary that you are supposed to get it now. The particulars of the institution where you are studying is very important because if UWC's name is going to be there and you are actually now with Stellenbosch, it means if you say that is okay, then UWC will get your bursary money and you will still owe Stellenbosch money. Once you accepted that conditions, you just tick all the accept the terms there, ticking that boxes, and then you can just submit, okay? And it will give you a message to just say, we are all done. You have successfully signed your NSFAS bursary agreement. That's that. Just bear in mind, if a cell number change, it is going to affect us and it's going to affect you. It's very important for us to have the right cell number. Sometimes there is a bursary or other funding or something that we just need to know from you. So we want to be in contact with you via the cell phone. And if that number on the system is still an old number, we're not going to be able to reach you or you're going to miss out on opportunities. The moment your cell number change, you need to change it on the MySun portal, as well as on the NSFAS portal, as well as on the portal at IntelliMali, because remember, they do payment with your cell numbers. So you need to always update them on that right number. On the NSFAS portal, you can also check your funded status. Yeah? It's going to show you everything ever since you start applying for the funding till the time where you are going to get the payout, when NSFAS validate your form, when the evaluation is done. It will tell you exactly where you are lying on that track. Okay? The moment we did go past the signing of that agreement, it will just show you, okay, now your further step is to just wait for the payment that are supposed to happen now. At NSFAS, there is also an appeals process for the new F10 students. Your income is supposed to be 350 for the family income and less than that. So if you know your income is less than that, and NSFAS say, no, you're unsuccessful. You know, okay, no, now I'm going to appeal because I know my parents ain't earning more than that 350,000. You can go onto the NSFAS portal. There will be a profile that will say appeals profile. And then when you just go on there, you are supposed to capture all your appeals and motivate why you are appealing. And that means now there must be new payslips and everything, and you must write a letter to just tell them what is happening in the financial part of your family's business. Sometimes the parent is deceased in the time when he applied, his parent was still alive, but by the time NSFAS must go work, the parent is deceased and the parent was the only income in the family. So they need to work, know all that information, and you need to give them all that information. And then all you do after you put in your appeal, you are supposed to just check your status all the time, because they need to work through all that new documents again. All senior students, the appeals for the senior students that didn't do so good, that you must require from either me or Mr. Schultz. It's a form that we need to send out to you. If there's information that you need or inquiries, or we've got sort of like a contact and client service center, you can be in contact with them and they will correct you and send you through to the right person who can help. Between me and Mr. Schultz, we are on our telephone lines available each day. We are doing Skype calls and Teams calls between 9:30 and 11:30 each day. And then the rest of the office, the inquiries office, are open whole day, except for the lunch hour time between 12:45 and 13:45. Just to bring it under your attention, just remember NSFAS is the external entity. We administer, at our department, we are just administer the funding for NSFAS. So if NSFAS say accredited accommodation, I know a lot of students has a problem with that. We are just following the rules of NSFAS. And if we don't follow that rules, they're not going to pay out to the University of Stellenbosch. We need to follow the NSFAS rules and guidelines. The NSFAS contact details, you can see it here on this screen. It is going to be, the virtual center is now at this stage open. Please go online there, go on the Facebook page, and then they've got Instagram and Twitter as well. And you are also welcome to just go on to that NSFAS page that you should know by now, www.nsfas.org.za, and then you log on with your My NSFAS account. Okay, that is it. NSFAS all in one.
Thank you, Lynette. Folks, I'm going to hand over to Pete now, who will facilitate the closing of the session. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been doing exceptionally well. I know it is a very long session, so thank you. Thank you for the team that just finished. I'm going to ask Bianca just back on stage. She's going to do final comments, and then we are going to be done for the day. So Bianca, if you would like to come back on stage. Once again, I know there are lots of questions that could not be answered. Please remember to reach out to your relevant departments. They will be more than willing to help you. Bianca, thank you for coming on stage. Just some final points from your side.
Thank you, Peter. There's a whole lot of questions that we needed to answer in the question poll. We were a bit overwhelmed there for a moment. But we do realize that there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to the NSFAS funding, especially for us as well in office. We would like to have the answers available to you immediately, But please bear with us. We are dependent on NSFAS for the information, the funded lists we get from NSFAS. So before your name appears on that funded list, we can't in any way guarantee funding for you. And it's an unfortunate situation that we're sitting with. But you do understand we're talking about thousands and thousands of students, and the university just don't have the funds to assist all of you. So if you have to pay for monies out of your own pocket to fund your studies, especially deposits and first compulsory installments, once you are funded by NSFAS, they will reimburse you. But we can't guarantee when that will happen, unfortunately. But once the monies are in and it reflects on your student account, we will be able to reimburse you if you provide us with a proof of the payment that you did. Yeah, it's an fortunate situation that we deal with. I just want to raise a few questions that were posed. The accreditation of the accommodation. At this stage, NSFAS only funds accommodation that is accredited. So we've raised the issue with them. We know that Stellenbosch is one of those towns where all the accommodation options are not accredited. We have colleagues working in the private accommodations department that seek private accommodation to go out and accredit those. If you know about any accommodation type that you wish to accredit, please liaise with the people at the accommodations department. I think the details were shared in the question poll, and so that they can go out and they can visit your option, and hopefully your landlord will go through the process of accreditation. Then secondly, allowances, the payment of allowances will happen from today. So if you are on the funded list, and if you are if you passed all your modules last year, you will definitely receive a questionnaire, and then you will get the link to the service provider form that you have to submit. That is on our website. You will have to complete that, submit it to our office, and that will happen. The payments will happen from today. So if you haven't received a code yet from IntelliMali to your cell phone, that will happen from today. So rest assured that IntelliMali is working on that. Then we've got a temporary ad hoc appointment in our office, Mr. Mark Reiters. You'll see that I mentioned his name a couple of times. He is there to assist Mr. Sauls and Ms. Williams with their queries, because they are dealing with more than 4,000 students. It is impossible for them to reach all of them. So Mr. Mark Reiters, his email is markr@sun.ac.za. Please feel free to send an email to him as the first line of entry, or alternatively, you can just reach out to the NSFAS colleagues via our client services center at info@sun.ac.za. Then our consultations is something else that came up. Our consultation hours, I think the NSFAS colleagues mentioned it as well. At this stage, we are available via our phones, and then one-on-one consultations via the Teams platform. So feel free to arrange for one-on-one consultation with the NSFAS colleagues. They are there, they are willing to assist you with that. Sorry, I'm just seeing this question from Alan Lawrence now. What or who is the service? Is a service provider? A service provider is a person who gives you or renders a service to you. So it's your landlord in this case. And this, we're referring to the service provider form that needs to be submitted along with your questionnaire that you will receive to pay out your allowances. So that service provider form can be accessed through our website. Our website details, if Peter can just share that in the poll again, for you to just get familiar with our website as well. Then these slides of these sessions will be posted on our website after our last session on Friday. So you more than welcome to then go and get the webinar there. I'm sure we moved along through the slides a bit quick. Maybe you can just go when you have more time, just get familiar with all the information that we shared. And then lastly, and I think most importantly, we are merely the administrators. The decisions are made by NSFAS. We follow the instruction of NSFAS, and we can't take any responsibility for the decisions that they make. We are merely the followers. We are grateful to NSFAS for the bursaries that they offer to you, our students from the working class population of South Africa. We are grateful for that. And we know that it's a great initiative. They've assisted loads and loads of students to get access to tertiary education. But if you want an issue to be addressed, we're more than willing to take it to NSFAS, but you can just register it with your SRC, and they can bring it up in one of our committee meetings as well. So thank you. We are definitely here for you. We are servicing you. We know that you are unclear about a lot of things. We are with you in the same boat, and we're trying to assist you as far as possible. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed the session, though. Thank you, Peter.
Brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, Bianca, thank you. That brings us to a close. Some people did ask questions just around. If you missed the beginning, you can go back and watch the beginning at any time. So please, I know a lot of questions are still coming through. Please directly address those to the relevant people. I can just share Mark's email address. You can request information from him, or I did also put the website link. So thank you, everyone. We really appreciate you taking the time out, and we trust and hope that you have a fantastic year ahead. We appreciate your time. Cheers, everyone.